Welcome back to Spank Ranch Garage. Tonight we are going to start to build a mid-engine off-road Subaru transmission from two separate all-wheel drive Subaru transmissions. Let's get started. First transmission we're going to start with is a TY 755 VB1AA. That means 1999 to 2000 JDM Subaru Turbo Forester. The reason I bought this trans is because this has a 4.44 final drive ratio on the front ring and pinion. That's the only reason I bought this trans. I got a good deal on it on Marketplace for 200 bucks. I don't know if it works, but I'm banking that the ring and pinion are good. The reason you want that with an off-road buggy such as the one I'm building is you're gonna put 30-inch, 32-inch tires on it. You want the best final drive ratio you can get so you can actually use all 5 gears. We're gonna make the theoretical lowest geared Subaru trans that we can with OEM parts, and then I'll show you how that compares to a factory Volkswagen bug trans or a 6-rib bus trans or any of the other common options that you'd use in a rail buggy. A roll pin inside a roll pin. I'm already off to a bad start with Subaru. To the rescue. Looks very, very clean though. This is the diff. That also just comes right out. It's got a nice big bearing on the front of it. Off comes the differential housing, I would say. This is your shift actuator, I guess. But it comes through and ties into the forks down here and does its job. So you can see this transmission has gotten quite a bit smaller now. This is pretty much everything you need to make it a front-wheel drive or a mid-engine type transmission. And you see here, we have a shaft in a shaft, and this is the important part. So these are your drive gears, this is your driven gear, and then right through the center of it is your pinion. The differential used to connect these based upon if it was sending power front or rear. The trick here is we need to attach these two together. Then I will only put power to the front stub axles where I need it. I'm not sure how these transmission shops measure backlash on a Subaru, but here at Spank Ranch Garage, you clamp a piece of aluminum stock in there and you mark it. You set up an indicator, and now you can very easily see your backlash. Now, all right, I have 20 thousandths of backlash, but that's at my leverage ratio here. That's why I marked this and I'm videoing it. So when I go to put the transmission back together, I'll set the dial indicator tip at that short blue line, and then the long blue line runs through the center line of the pinion shaft. This should be a repeatable setup. What is my actual backlash? I don't know, I'd have to do the math on it. But either way, for me, I know this transmission had 20,000 Spank Ranch Garage backlash, and that's what I want to have when I'm done. Now that we're in here, do a quick little how this works kind of deal, right? Got your input shaft here. Great. First 2 critical support bearings, and then you have your smallest drive gear versus your highest driven gear. This is first gear. This is fairly strong because it's right there. Like the bearing is right here. You have support on that gear. You come across here, this is reverse. See down here, there's an idler gear. Anytime you have an idler gear, that changes your direction the other way. So these two gears, even though they're close, they don't ever actually touch. Idler pulls off of this gear and to the reverse gear. Next, you have second gear, and this is the concerning gear to me because it is in the center between the bearings, right? It's the furthest distance between the bearings, and it's your second highest tooth load, essentially. So I think if this trans was going to break, it's probably going to break second or third. This is third gear right next to it. But you see they're pretty far away from bearings. If you really wanted a strong transmission, you'd find a way to support, you know, right next to this gear as well. But whatever. Like I said in my other video, these transmissions, people do break them in turbo cars doing stuff on the street. This is going to be a 150 horsepower buggy that weighs 1,000 pounds. I don't think I'm going to be breaking gears in here. But if I do, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Well, that was stupid easy. Diff just pulls out. That is pretty heavy diff. Really, we've taken what we needed from this trans. I'm not going to throw this trans away, though. I have other plans, don't worry. Now, luckily, we already loosened this nut, so I'm glad I did that. That was very good forward thinking. I'm usually much stupider. Take these off. I'll take this whole assembly off. And the needle bearing. Sit that down as it comes off. Should be able to just slide this pinion out the front. Yep. Nice. I should have did a tooth pattern before I took this apart, but you know what? We're just out here living. This is a ring and pinion out of a Dana 30 Jeep. It ain't all that different. So I think this is 7" or so. This is a little bit smaller. I don't know how it compares to a Volkswagen differential, but I think it's gonna hold up for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 times 4.44, 39.96. So I should have 40 teeth on this differential. Okay, 40 teeth. Pretty well done with this transmission now. I got what I needed out of it. And to be clear here, what I need to do is, because this came out of a turbo car, first gear is pretty long, second gear, actually the whole gear set is not the lowest that Subaru offers. It's, you know, it's made for a turbo car. It's made to have long gears. So they put really long gears and then a short final drive ratio in it because it's a Forester and it's heavy. So I'm going to go to the junkyard and find probably a 99 to 2000 Legacy Outback, if that's even the same car, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to find one of those late 90s, early 2000s Subarus that were non-turbo, and they came with a lower 1 through 5 gear set, and then like a 3.9 or a 4.1 final drive ratio. So the goal is to go find one of those, pull that, hopefully it'll have a push style clutch in it, and then put this final drive into that trans to mathematically create the lowest gear ratio possible with all Subaru parts. And, well, anyway, let's go to the junkyard and see what we can do. All right, so you see here I have a Legacy that is in the age range I'm looking for. I think this one turns out to be a 99 or so. But before you go digging into the car, look right at the tag on the shock tower. That gives you the part number of the transmission. Look it up, see if it's what you want, and then take a look down deeper and make sure that that part number matches, so you know someone didn't change the transmission from the original one. Okay. Ta-da! We got another Subaru trans. It's 180 bucks. Okay. I'll be, you know, less than 400 to build this whole trans, but I do have an entire spare trans afterwards for parts. So the price is going to be all right. Now this is a TY 754V AAAA. And this has the lowest first, second, third, and fourth gear ratios you could get in this 5-speed box. Overdrive in this one is a little lower than the ideal ratio, but I couldn't find a car with that other ratio. I'm probably never going to use fifth gear anyway. Honestly, with a 30-inch tire, I'll just never use it. Anyway, this is a push style clutch, which is nice. It's going to work better for me. And it's actually cable. Now, Subaru did drill and tap the bell housing for me, so I couldn't put a hydraulic sleeve here. So I have options. I can either go cable or hydraulic. It's also got the better dipstick. I got lucky with that. Like, it's just got this little dipstick. I can't believe the big dinger dong that's on that stupid trans. Still got the stub style axles. It's literally the same exact thing. It's even got an aftermarket shifter bushing in it. And basically I got to tear this down and do the exact same thing. Okay, so look at the pattern on that side. Pretty well dead center. It doesn't get a lot better than that. And then on the other side, a little harder to see there. I didn't get as much pressure on the paste, but it's about spot on centered as well. We'll see if we can do that. That's pretty nice. I don't think I'll be able to hit that, but it depends how lucky I get and how much time I want to put into it. Okay, that looks good. That looks like bearings, spacers, at least the shaft diameters are all comparable. Okay, so at first glance here, looks to me that this pinion fits the older secondary shaft. So let's set this aside. I don't see any differences, meaning I'm going to leave this ring gear on the carrier that came out of a 4.4 Ford diff and put that in. But I am having a thought, since I'm not removing these bearings, I should use the bearing races from the trans that this came from. These just pop out. They are floating and very easy to adjust. We'll get into that, but this is the bearing race from the original trans. Here's the 4.4 Ford diff. We'll drop that in. There are locating pins on the bearings. Don't screw that up. You'll never get the case back together. Ooh, don't do that, idiot. I smashed one of the shims. Smashed all the shims on this. Don't want to do that. So you see here, I bent up these shims. That's what losers do. Don't be a loser. Damn it. I forgot to tighten the pinion. Dang it! Back apart she comes. Invalid test result. Dang it! She's got about 70 thousandths of Spanko backlash, which we know both good transmissions had between 15 and 20. So we are way out of the ballpark. Now, is it pinion depth or is it carrier offset? We'll pull it apart, take a look at the pattern on the gear, and that should give us a hint, and then we'll make adjustments from there. Okay, I've had this thing apart probably 6 times now. It's annoying as crap, but the preload is now perfect. The pattern was close. I had to pull a pinion shim. I had to move the carrier this way, then I ended up bumping it back 1 tooth that way. So let me bust a pattern right now, see where we stand, but I am pretty sure this is the final revision. See here, this is the drive side. This is really what matters. My distance between the root here and the tip of the gear, the tip of the tooth, very good. I am centered smack dab in the middle, though I am a little bit on the inside of the ring. I'd love to see this a little more this way, but my backlash is perfect. 15 Spanko inches, and my preload feels very good. I might be able to get a half a tooth more preload on this, but I think I'm gonna leave it as is. So shimming these kind of sucks. This was my first time doing it. It's just annoying. You have to keep putting the trans back together, pulling it out, putting it back together, pulling it out. You have to bolt this bearing retainer in every time, and you have to make sure the cases are squeezed together nicely. So I put a bolt through here, and then I put a bolt through here, caddy corner. Make sure I'm clamping this bearing down to replicate what it would be in real life. bolt up the bearing retainer, make sure your shims aren't all mangled up, and then do your print. So we're there now. That was a pain in the ass, but now I have a transmission with the low first, second, third, and fourth gears, and the super low 4.44 final drive. Building this trans is actually quite a bit of work. I'm gonna break the video up into 2 parts. So this will be the end of part 1. Sorry if it was a little boring. It was kind of just the more technical side of disassembling, combining, and then rebuilding these Subaru trans. So at this point, I have a 4.44 final drive in a low ratio legacy transmission. Check in for the next episode. It's sure to be a lot more exciting. We're gonna be machining parts, welding parts, building custom parts. We're gonna actually do the portion where we convert this transmission to a front wheel drive or mid-engine configuration, where we eliminate the center differential, we eliminate the rear output shaft, and then we're gonna shorten the trans as much as we can to make this thing take up the smallest amount of space. We're also gonna be shooting to make this thing as light as possible. So any parts that are in this transmission that won't be needed in my application are gonna go to the wayside, and we're gonna try to get this thing down to, you know, as close to the weight of a Volkswagen transmission as I can. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 2. That'll be coming out really soon, and I'll see you guys then.